We went to Marham because there was a Mosquito conversion unit there alongside the two Bomber Command Mosquito squadrons, 139 and 105. And we each did 2 trips, familiarization trips, on the Mosquito, still with no idea where we were going to finish up or what we were going to be doing. And the CO then said, we're going to catch the night train up to the north of Scotland, where we're going to form a whole new squadron. And so we then went by train up to an airfield near Wick in the very north of Scotland, and RAF Skitton became our home for the next few months. Skitton was a satellite from Wick, out on the moors, totally isolated, chosen because of the isolation, and we used some aircraft that were on loan to us from either 105 or 139 Squadron. They were Bomber Command aircraft. They made 6 aircraft available to us so that we could continue getting flying experience. And the 618 Squadron, as it became, was constituted half by Coastal Command crews who had the experience of distance flying over the sea, and the Bomber Command crews who knew all about bombing as an activity. So these two activities complemented each other. And we had these few aircraft on which we could share some training flights. We had initially no idea why we were there. No one was telling us anything. The CO Hutchinson, Wing Commander Hutchinson, was still somewhere in the south of England, and he came up after about 3 days with a Provost Marshal and 24 RAF police corporals. And we were then summoned to the operations room and told what our future mission was. The Provost Marshal, the DAPM, then outlined the security which was going to surround us. In very simple, clear terms, you are here isolated and everything that you do will be top secret. We learned then for the first time that we were going to have a new weapon, details of which would be learned in due course. We were told that we were going to carry out a daylight attack on the German battleship Tirpitz, which was at that time based in Trondheim and on the Norwegian coast, halfway up the Norwegian coast, and that we were going to use a new top secret weapon. And the weapon was the element of surprise. The raid had to be carried out within 24 hours of another operation which we had no reason to know about, and would be taking place within 6 weeks of our arriving at Skitton. So we were faced with learning how to fly this new aircraft with a weapon that we hadn't seen, and to navigate our way into Norway and back as a formation of 20 aircraft, all of which had to be attained in 6 weeks. Initially, the testing was done at Reculver, down on the Kent coast by Squadron Leader Charlie Rose, one of our flight commanders. But once we had the modified aircraft and the store, as we called it, we didn't call it a bomb, we called it a store so that it wouldn't be identified by name as a mine or a bomb. And once we had gained some experience on that, then we went out and we attacked a French battleship which was moored in Loch Striven on the west coast near Dunoon. So we would fly around the Cape Wrath, and down into Loch Striven and carry out low-level attacks there, simulated low-level attacks, dropping both. We carried two bombs, and we would drop both of them, and they would be photographed both on the on the ship itself and from cameras that were mounted on the sides of the lock. They were mounted in tandem within the bomb bay. Bomb bay doors had been removed, of course, so that the underside, looking at the underside of the aircraft, there was about, I suppose, 8 inches of the diameter protruding below these pair of bombs, and they would be set spinning, I think, to about 900 revs a minute, spinning in reverse, because the whole skill was to get them to bounce by spinning in reverse, and they would then bounce on the water and bounce very effectively, and when they had to hit a solid object like the hull of a German battleship, the spinning would cause the bomb to stay with the surface that it hit until, of course, it reached a level where a depth charge pistol would then detonate the bomb. And the weakest part of the turpits was known to be near the keel. Above the keel there was armour, some of which was 5 inches thick, so quite impervious to anything that we were able to throw at it.
So how successful were you with the device?
In terms of calm water, quite successful, but there were problems in the balance with the balance within the bomb itself. The material within the bomb was critical, because if that balance was not right, there would tend to be a wobble on the bomb as it dropped. The speed was also critical, as was the surface of the water, so that on one occasion, for example, we dropped both stores with a 3-second delay between them, and it was interesting to see the second bomb overtake the first one, because its pattern of hitting the water was a better pattern than the first one. It was so critical. The biggest problem, of course, for us, which we identified right at the outset as soon as we heard about this, was the distance from our base at Squadron up to the target. And after they had planned this operation, the Tirpitz left Trondheim and made its base in future in Karfjord, which was way north of Tromsø, some 920 miles from Sombra in the Shetland Islands, which was our nearest takeoff point. The Mosquito, fully laden, had a range of about 1,150 miles, and it doesn't need a maths degree to realize there was a big disparity if you were hoping to return. We began to realize that this was going to be a one-way trip, because no one could offer a sensible means of our getting back to Blighty. We began to think that these visits from VIPs was something of a farewell chaps visit. Thanks for doing what you're about to do. Of the various suggestions that came from senior officers as to how we might overcome this distance problem, it's beyond belief, as we sit quietly now thinking about it, that these suggestions were made as in serious comment. For example, one was that the Royal Navy would put an aircraft carrier into the Arctic Circle in the vicinity, but way offshore from Tromsø, and we would fly out, that is what was left after facing 105 anti-aircraft guns on the Tirpitz, plus all their shore batteries. What was left of you would then fly out to sea, and we'd fly over the aircraft carrier, where we would all jump out into the sea, and they would launch the Admiral's launches from the aircraft carrier and pick up those that they could find, omitting the fact that if you landed in the Arctic Circle, you had about 2 minutes of life before hypothermia set in, that you were weighed down with all your flying kit. The probability of getting out of a mosquito in one piece was pretty low. And the Royal Navy were not about to risk an aircraft carrier in waters that were infested by German U-boats just to rescue a few RAF bods. So the final solution was that we would fly back out to sea from Carfjord, would turn back inland at Narvik, because at Narvik there's a railway line that went down across Norway into Sweden down to the Gulf of I've forgotten the name of the Gulf in Sweden. There was a train that carried iron ore down to be loaded out from the Swedish ports, and that train went through pine forests. So we could find the railway line and fly down the railway line until we ran out of fuel, and then we'd land on the treetops and make our way down to the ground and wait there until a passing train came, and we would catch that to into Sweden. We would then be taken from that port down to Stockholm, where we would be kept there, what the RAF called Brighton. Stockholm was known as Brighton, and we would stay there until the Foreign Office could find some way of wangling us back to England. I was 19 at the time, stuck in this place, not able to talk to anybody about what we were doing, and the prospect of dying at 19 didn't appeal to me at all. The idea previously that one day I might be shot down, that was a good battle, but the idea of going out and deliberately being killed appealed to me much, much less. And there we were. The date of the attack came and went. We heard on the radio that a squadron had bombed some dams in Germany. That was the first time we had any intimation that there was another squadron, 617 Squadron, doing that job. We learnt about that. April became May, June and July, and we still were training and trying to overcome these problems of distance and the technical problems. And then a notice went up on the station notice board to say that a corporal was arranging dancing classes if anybody would like to sign up. And we thought, well, that really is the pits. When we've got to doing nothing but dancing classes. We've been sitting here now since the end of March, and it's now July, and nothing has happened. They then decided to disband the squadron until they had resolved the problem of performance of the weapon. And they, in fact, where the squadron was later reinstated and went out to Australia. But that's another story.